nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
This video is not intended for children. Viewer discretion is advised.
If you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greetings, one and all, and welcome to Mornings of Mischief. I'm your host, Stone Loki, and with me today is the one and only Vance Major Owen. Good morning, Vance.
What's up, man? How we doing, brother?
We are doing good. Guys, Rambling Canuck is out this week. Our thoughts and prayers are with Canuck right now. He is going through so much. Guys, we love Canuck, but he couldn't make it here this morning. And hopefully he will be back in the coming weeks. I don't know when, but hopefully he will be back as we are talking Star Trek, The Next Generation, and giving our retrospective on the series. And today we are going to talk about season 2 of Next Generation. But before we do that, I would like to say good morning to everyone. Good morning to Sagadorf 9. Good morning, Mark the Infinitely Tired, Go 13, aka Brandon the Infinite Whoop. Purple Valkyrie, Mark the Infinitely Tired. Good morning, Mark. And Chris Persia, the Bash brothers are here, ladies and gentlemen. Arwen Avalon, good morning. Good morning, Purple Valkyrie. Good morning, Dave G Sound. Eris of Chaos, good morning. The one and only Adega Outlaw is here, the Doctor of Disaster and Destruction. T-shirted historian, good morning. Keely Chow, Roll Tide, Keely Roll Tide. Snorta Poopus Cuber, good morning, guys. Good morning. Speaker for the Dead, Brian says, engage. Yes, absolutely engage into season 2. And there's so many good episodes in season 2. And it's absolutely insane how many good episodes are in season 2 compared to season 1. Teresa Pearson, good morning. Colin B. Smith, Pod Racing Palpatine, everyone out there, if I missed you. Project Storytime, good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get right to it. What a way to start a season with the child, Dr. Pulaski.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that good old Dr. Plasko. Let's start with that. First off, They had, season 1 ended with losing Tasha Yar and losing Dr. Crusher. And they gained, I remember when I was a kid and I saw in TV Guide that they were trying to sell the Dr. Pulaski as being kind of their version of Dr. McCoy. And I was kind of like, what does that mean? And then we got Dr. Pulaski, and I was like, oh, this lady. Like she just screamed old woman. and not impressive.
No,
like
considering she was on TOS too. She was the actress herself, not the character, but the actress was on TOS.
Right. And the thing about her is, like, it's not like she was quirky type fun. Like she screamed like one of the Golden Girls, you know. And she just didn't fit. And I think that was the whole problem. Like, the actress was just fine. It's the character that just didn't fit. She was, you know, kind of bigoted toward Data.
Yeah, the toaster. She treated him like he was a toaster.
Yeah, and I think they were trying to replicate that kind of dynamic that Bones had with Spock, and it just didn't work. And it's the type of mentality of trying to get a square peg into a round hole. You know, it's you know, instead of trying to build a character that kind of works on its own, you're trying to recreate another character and trying to fit it into this. And especially when you already had a year worth of characters that, you know, they already had a chance to grow. You had Worf, you had Riker, you had Geordi. You know, you had these characters. They had a chance to breathe for a year. And then you had introduced this new character that is supposed to be a breath of fresh air, and it wasn't. It was very stale. And I've seen the actress in other things. Like I said, I liked the actress, but the character, it felt repetitive. It felt stale. And I know there's some hardcore Pulaski lovers, and I for the love of God, can't figure out what they love about her. And I will say this. Despite going through a whole season with her, she did have some episodes where she shined. The one where where Pulaski gets like super old because she's trying to cure that one disease. I liked that episode. That one I do feel like she did good. And the one episode where Moriarty's there, I feel
Elementary.
Yes, Dear Data. Yeah, yes. Elementary Dear Data. Yeah. She did shine there. The character did. Those are really the only two times where I gave a shit about the character. Outside that, I didn't care about you at all. And I feel the one episode where, and this is a couple seasons later, in the 5th season episode where Worf gets his back broken, and this one doctor comes on and has this experimental thing, and offers Worf the opportunity to
walk again.
Yes. I feel like that doctor felt like Pulaski to me, and I felt like they had a missed opportunity with asking Diana Muldaur to come back. And I felt like that would have been a perfect opportunity to kind of have this, you know,
her butt heads with Crusher.
Yes.
Yes.
That would have been perfect for her, because it was, I mean, if you especially doing those deep fakes, you know, you could easily put Pulaski over that lady's face and it would have been perfect for her, because it is Pulaski. You know, the same mannerisms are there, everything. But they tried, instead of making an original Pulaski in this season, they tried to make a brand new McCoy, and that was where they went wrong, I felt. But where they went right, they gave us Guinan and 10
Yes.
Forward.
Oh, and I love listening to that story that Geordi, God, but God, what's his real name? I'm blanking.
LeVar Burton.
LeVar Burton. Thank you. The story LeVar tells about how he went to the higher ups and said, "Yeah, I've talked to Whoopi and she would love to," and they were like, "Yeah, right." And then he actually called her. He called her in front of them and he was like, "Hey, I'm here with everybody and they would love to have you on TNG." She was like, "Great, I'd love to." And they were just spellbound by that. The fact that she actually wanted to be on Next Gen.
Mm-hmm.
I love hearing that story because it's like they were like, "Ah, bullshit. He's just making that up. He's not being serious. He didn't really talk to Whoopi Goldberg." And yes, what would TNG have been like without Whoopi, without Guinan at 10 forward?
Yeah. Well, you had so many good so many good scenes in that, just in 10 forward, throughout the entire series. And, and that all starts here. You didn't have that in the first season. So, I mean, we got a brand new set, which was, created for this, and then, a brand new character. And so that's one thing that, season 2 did right. And that's where we kind of start to course correct from being, kind of the bland, no friction between the characters, season 1-esque TNG, to starting to add some dimension to the characters. Because once you get to 10 forward, that's where the characters sit and they talk about some of their problems and some of the BS that goes on. And especially in the episode, and I crack up every time, in the episode where Wesley is trying to find love. I think it's called the Dolphin.
Yeah, the Dolphin. Yeah.
Yeah. And Guinan and Riker are, they're role playing or whatever. And Wesley is like, "Okay, guys, I think I get it." And Guinan's like, "Shut up, kid. Tell me more about my eyes."
Yeah, tell me more about my eyes.
And that type, like that's the type of humor, that one Whoopi brings, that kind of counterbalances the kind of stagnant feeling that Pulaski brought, and just the fun that the 10 forward sets brought to this season. It allowed it to be a lot more fun of an environment. And that's something we did.
Mystery though too, because when you get Q Who, I think it was Q Who. Was
yes.
It Q Who? Yes. Yeah. She throws up her hands, and Q is almost frightened. He's like, "Throw off your ship now! Throw off your ship where she is. Trouble follows where this. She's an imp, Captain.
She's an imp. Yeah. Like, what is that? Where she goes, trouble follows. Like, what are those hand things? Like, what the fuck is that about? Like, what? And we still won't have that answer. And for how many seasons went by where you don't know, like, what's the relationship between Guinan and Picard, and we still don't know everything about that race. I mean, with her, we find out in yesterday's Enterprise, she's the only one that knows time is messed up. Well,
and she doesn't even know how to explain that. She just tells him, "I just know that this is all wrong."
Right. And like I think some of those things are going to be explained in this season of Star Trek Picard, because they said she's coming back. And of course Q's going to be back. So there's going to be some banter between her and Q, which I'm looking forward to, because it's like, you guys have 25 years worth of mystery between each other, because really her and Q only have, I think, 2 scenes together in the entire series, which is here in Q Who, and then the next time in is it Q Less? I think maybe it's in the next season. It's where he loses his powers.
Yeah.
Where she walks up and and stabs him in the hand, and she's like, "Oh, this seems human enough to me," and that's it. But she's a very mysterious character.
How the mighty have fallen.
Yes. And that's one of the best things about this season, is the introduction of the Borg, which were supposed to be last season. They were supposed to be, and I'm not exactly sure how they were supposed to do it again. I've read
they tease you in the episode with the Romulans. They tease you with that because they talk about how something just scooped up the civilization on that planet.
Well, originally though, it was supposed to be something slightly altered with conspiracy. Was supposed to be the Borg. and again, like every time I read it, I'm lost on exactly how it is. I'll have to send you some of the articles that they talk about on conspiracy, because to me it doesn't quite make sense, because they revamped what the Borg were, because they were still going through like ideas of what exactly they were going to do with the Borg. I don't think they were named the Borg at the time. But the same scoop of what you're talking about is yes, absolutely right. Like that's what the Borg, the storyline is, with what we got. But I mean that the whole episode of Q-Who of fucking run,
Yeah.
you've got this big massive ship chasing you. And Q tells us, you're not prepared for what's out there. And it's such a slow build. I
always thought they should have done more with the buildup, because you've got this idea of, okay, you've got a colony, you've got a Federation colony that's set up on a planet, and suddenly it's gone. What the hell happened to it? It's not just that the people are gone; the entire colony's gone.
Yeah.
That is a mystery, and that's something that Picard and Data would have reveled in. Where did they go, Data? It would have been this almost like Sherlock Holmes mystery, and then to find out the whole time that, hey, guess what? The Borg dropped by, did it, and then took off. Why did they do it? Oh, well, later we find out that in the past a message got sent to the Borg saying, come to this area of space and get these people. Get them before they have a chance to challenge you.
Right.
And then they could have set that up in Enterprise. They could have so set that up. And then they did. They had the Borg episode in Enterprise where did the signal get out? Yes, but it's going to take all these years to get to this area of the Delta Quadrant.
Well, and that's one of the things that I feel, not to get off topic, but I feel like Star Trek, like they're very hit or miss on the Borg, because by the time we get to the Voyager stuff, like
yeah, no,
I can tell that's a loaded topic with you, huh?
Yes.
It's kind of like the dog has lost its teeth. It's kind of like, instead of wolf, 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 it's kind of like wolf, wolf, wolf. Because like even the Delta Flyer has can take out a Borg cube. It seems at this point, because that's how overpowered the Voyager crew are. It's almost like the Voyager doesn't even need those ultra cool shields. The equivalent of like the 1989 Batmobile shields over the ship. Because I don't know what to call those shields that are in the last Voyager episode.
Regenerative. Oh, in the last one, they were. It was the blade of armor.
There you go, blade of armor. Yeah, and that always reminds me of like the 1989 Batmobile.
Yes.
And which I love, but not on Voyager. Like that looks so out of place. But it's just like they really turned the Borg into a bunch of cowards and made Voyager so overpowered. But it's like when you're watching those first episodes of the Borg,
it's terrifying.
Yeah, like even now, like just watching it on my big screen, there's something that can be said about just a cube in space chasing you, the mystery of it, and them beaming one drone at a time on your ship and just studying you. And you're not really, like you as a person don't really matter. And I kind of feel like with the assimilation thing, I feel like they kind of lost something in the Best of Both Worlds when they took Picard. I feel like they kind of lost something in that regard. I kind of wish that they had kept that whole "you're not important, they're just after your technology," because I feel like that's a little bit more interesting to me. If we're something that can be disregarded, if they're just after our technology. Because to me, if you're something that it's kind of like a disregarded limb, they can just throw you off the side of the road and just continue on walking. It's like a zombie that bites you and then just continues going. It's it's like you're not important. as opposed to the assimilation thing. I feel like that kind of watered down the effect of the Borg, and I feel like that kind of happened every time we saw the Borg. It just kind of watered it down. Because that first time, how do you talk to something that doesn't regard you in any capacity at all?
Yeah.
And the first time that Borg looks at them, that's complete disregard of anything that we're doing, and there is nothing more terrifying than someone that completely has a lack of regard for you. But to me, I love the fact that Guinan's sitting there going, "Hey guys," someone who's utterly optimistic. She's sitting there basically shitting her pants, going, "Guys, we got to get out of here."
Destroy it now. Destroy it now.
and they don't listen. They're like, "Well, Guinan, I don't know." And then they're dumb enough to be like, "Well, they paid us a visit. Let's go over there and do them a visit." Like, dude, are you serious? Like, to me, I felt like that was kind of a facepalm moment, because it's like, when do you ever really beam over to an enemy ship? Like, you never do that. Don't do it. Just go, guys. Get out of Dodge, man. Like, but that was a great episode. That one I felt was really, really good. I mean, it holds up today. The visual effects, the cube.
And the cube's so huge. I mean, the Enterprise D is a massive vessel.
Yeah.
1,000 people on board. And that cube dwarfs it like it's nothing.
Well, especially when you think about it in regards, I don't know if you ever watch those this ship compared to this ship videos on YouTube, where it'll show you this ship, then it kind of pulls out and shows you the size of this ship, then it pulls out a little bit more and shows you the size of this ship, then it pulls out a little bit more and shows you the size of this ship, and then at the end of the video, it shows you all the ships, how they line up together. And at the very beginning, you'll see the very first ship, and it's a size comparison. When I think about the Enterprise D, I always think about how small the very first Enterprise is. How it's about a third the size of the saucer section of the Enterprise D. And when you think about the size comparison, how the Enterprise D is as opposed to the Borg cube, like, that really puts a lot of things in perspective about how tiny. Or about how large the Borg cube is. I mean, it's just massive, and then to just think this thing is just chock full of Borg, like, you guys there's no way you can stop this thing. It's just it's just a juggernaut, let's see.
Mexican Iron Man with $4.99 super chat. I agree with Purple and V-Man. Borg scary first, then a bit overused. Funny fact, the Borg Queen to this day reminds me of my ex baby mama.
Was that the pickup line she gave you? Was resistance is futile, and you're like, you're mine. I got it.
Thank you so very much, Mexican Iron Man, for that $5 super chat. You guys keep the fires burning bright here in Valhalla, and a little Trek skull for you. Skull! I can't wait to talk about Best of Both Worlds. We're gonna do that. We're gonna do that later. But
see, and that's something else. Like the Borg Queen, you can tell that the Borg Queen wasn't thought of in the episode of Q-Who. Like, I really love how the Borg were written here. Like, you can tell the Borg were evolved every episode that they were written in. Because in this one, they don't care about human life. There was no talk of assimilation. It was just, they want your technology, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then in Best of Both Worlds, they were talked about, it wasn't they want to assimilate everybody. It's just, well, we need a representative. Let's just grab Picard so he can represent us. And then assimilation was hinted at in, I, Borg. And that's where it was talked about, but like up to that point, they really didn't talk about assimilation all that much. It really wasn't a thing. So like, it was talked about, in B canon, but like nobody really talked about assimilation outside of Picard. It was kind of a rare thing. and this is how they get Borg, but like nobody had talked about, because they just want their technology. So it was, the Borg were kind of inconsistent, and it wasn't until the Descent Part 2 or Part 1 and 2 where it's like the Borg don't act this way, they assimilate, they don't kill. So it wasn't until those things where it was assumed that these things were established, but when you actually watch the episodes and take them at face value, they weren't established. It was kind of it was kind of retroactively retconned, because this first episode, there's no hint at all of assimilation, let alone a Borg queen. And I kind of miss those days.
So do I. Nerdporeal Lifeform with $5 super chat says, working on Sonic video for 30th anniversary tomorrow. Managed to mention the Borg and TNG in this video. I've mentioned Trek in every video I've made. We love Trek. Absolutely love Trek. And there's another IP I absolutely love. And we're going to give that to you in the Nerdporeal Lifeform. Here you go, brother. Skull!
Long live the fighters!
Mexican Iron Man is Apollo. Pretty much she sucked the absolute ever living life out of me. Her pickup line was, I want to take you home and lick you. Stupid me responded, bartender, check, please. True story. And T-shirt historian says the inner light is still my favorite. The ending of that episode still makes me weep. It's an absolutely wonderful episode.
Dude, I cry like a bitch every time I see it. Oh my god!
He pulls the flute out at the end. We found this in the satellite. So
oh my god! I tell you, when they did in Tapestry, when they did the or not Tapestry, in what's that one where he does the song with that lady in the bowels of the ship. It's such a beautiful moment, and it's such a vulnerable moment for Picard, because he's sharing that intimate song with the piano lady in the ship, and way it echoes and everything, and it's such a, oh my god, when TNG screwed up a lot, especially with that episode where the doctor is like boning the ghost of her grandma,
Rose or something,
Rosa or something, Sub Rosa. But when TNG got it right, oh my god, they got it right.
Elementary, Dear Data, we brought that up earlier.
That was a great one. I mean, it brings sentient life to Moriarty, and way before Voyager ever did. And the actor who played him, a phenomenal actor.
And so did Measure of a Man, though, too. Measure of a Man is one of my favorite episodes in this season. To me, it only gets beat out by A Matter of Honor, because I'm a huge Klingon fan. So getting to see Riker on that Klingon ship and all that, we'll get to that in a minute, but not to skip over Measure of a Man. The fight, does Data have a soul at the end of that, and how Picard comes back? I mean, Riker slams dunks that case after Riker, he pulls his arm off, he shuts him down, he's like, Pinocchio's strings have been cut, and puts his arm on the table, and it's like, that's it. How did Riker have the gall to do that? And how he apologizes to Data later, and he's like, I'm so sorry, and he's like, no, you did something. And the way Data explains it, I always love that. He says, you did something that hurt you to save me. Thank you. And Data and Riker just smiles and is like, you're a wise man, my friend.
See, and that's what modern Trek is missing, is these stories that, they have such a humanness to them. Such a moral tale to a lot of them. And then when you get to the deep moments that are even deeper than what's on the surface, I mean, you can sit there and analyze. I mean, oh my God, just the philosophical things on what they're doing, so much beneath the surface. And and none of this has anything to do with explosions or action sequences or anything. Like, these stories are what made me a Star Trek fan.
Yes.
Because you sit there and like I'd be walking to school and I'd be thinking about these topics and I'd be thinking about these issues, and you play them back in your mind, and this right here is what gets you thinking about important issues today that matter. And they still matter today. They're still relevant. Granted, not Android, but well, I mean, maybe eventually, because we're getting really good with robotics. But you sit there and you think about whichever side of whatever issue you're on. You start thinking of things in those scales. And it Star Trek really paints these pictures, and very much the way TOS did with, I think it was Let This Be Your Last Battlefield, where like one of the aliens is black on one side, white on the other.
Yes.
And very much at the time that was talking about racism and whatnot, and it's the same way with Data, where do you have a soul? At what point do you become a person? And we talk about that way about other people.
Picard even brings that up in this episode. When he's talking to Guinan, he's like, you're talking about slavery, racism, and she's like, no, that's a little harsh, and walks away. But that's exactly what they were talking about. Is this person worth it? Is this person worthy of having this? Well, everyone is worthy of having this.
Yeah.
Data is a life form. He's just different. Like Picard explains it, we're built from cells. We're a machine. We're just an organic machine. Data is a living machine.
Right. Well, the only thing that makes us believe that we're of higher value is the fact that we're in power. Take that power away from us, and then where do we stand then? And
with the Borg. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and that's exactly it. And those are the things that make you think about that, at such a young age. That modern Trek, and that's not to knock modern Trek, because I do enjoy it. So please, nobody think that I'm bashing Discovery or Picard. I do enjoy it for what it is, but there is a quality difference, I believe, in some of the stories that are told,
and the writing. I completely agree, especially with an episode like this, because this came from a teacher. This came out of nowhere. Measure of a Man came from a woman named Melinda Snodgrass. And at the time, she was just a teacher. And they were begging for scripts. That's something you don't see now. They were begging for scripts. And they get this script, Measure of a Man, from this teacher. And suddenly it's one of the most beloved episodes, not only of season 2, but of TNG.
Yeah, it's played in. You can watch that in a bunch of recaps anytime they're going over series recaps. This is one of those ones that they always flash back to, especially the one where Picard is making it his case, where he's like, I don't know. Do you know? Do you? And that's one of those things where it's like you sit there and you ask, Picard's asking the question, and he may be talking to Riker, and he may be talking to his old bang chick. But he's talking to the audience. Do we know? Do we? And it's one of those ones where you internalize the question, and it's so eloquently done, and not many people, like Patrick Stewart, can pull it off, because he's speaking directly to us, so kudos to the Star Trek team. Another episode that I love. And I know you brought up
really quick before we do that. Golago 13, aka Brandon the Imp Wolf, with $2 super chat. Star Trek TNG season 2 verdict progress. TNG was always great. Thank you so much, Golago 13, aka Brandon the Infinite Wolf, for that $2 super chat. You guys keep the fires burning bright here in Valhalla. Skol! And really quick, Psychodor 9, our mission is to find new life forms. Well, there it sits. And that's exactly what Picard says.
Yeah.
Starfleet's mission is to find new life. It's in the charter. Well, there it sits. Yes, absolutely, Psychodor 9.
Yeah. And that it's such a great episode. Another one that I thought, and I kind of want to go back and watch it because I think it's one of those jewels that no one really ever talks about, but it's the one with the deaf ambassador, and Loud as a Whisper, I think is the
Loud
name
as a Whisper. Yes.
And I don't remember. It's one that I think gets skipped an awful lot. I know it gets skipped by me because I haven't watched it very often, but it's one that it's just it's undeserving in that regard, because everyone always talks about Q-Who. They always talk about like Shades of or not well, your favorite Shades of Grey, because I know you were talking about that before the program.
Man, no.
But Loud as a Whisper, like that one was really good. I enjoyed that one. But again, like there's no explosions, there's no super action packed. Again, it's just great drama, and it's a very humanistic story. And it brings up a lot of good ideals. But
I felt the same way about Matter of Honor. You would think that in an episode where we're going to get Riker on a Klingon ship, there is going to be all kind of explosions, battle, fighting, and what you get is a understanding. For one of the first times you get a real understanding of the Klingons.
Yeah.
And that famous quote, they want to know how you will endure. Endure what?
Yeah.
Them. One or both. Riker's like, one or both of them at the same time. And the Klingons just love it. And they laugh their ass off. And you're like, oh my God, these are some happy-go-lucky, joking bikers in space.
Yeah.
And it's like they love sitting down together, having a meal together, laughing their ass off, ribbing each other, constantly ribbing each other about, I can do this. Well, I can do this better. And I'm better at this. And oh, look, I'll take on both of them. I'm not big enough man. They're men's men. And to get that understanding, and for them to understand him, that's what I did not see coming. At the end of that episode, when I think it was Kurgo or whatever the original first officer of that ship was, Kargan, when he says, you understand Klingons better than I thought. When he bows up to the captain and growls at him and takes a hit, because he knows, Riker understands the captain has been slighted and he has to reassert his command over his crew. And what better way to do that than backhanding Riker across the bridge, and Riker taking a hit. And he does that because he knows the chain of command has been threatened. He is an unstable element that was introduced into the chain of command, and he can't leave the ship without letting the captain kind of get his due back.
Yeah.
Well, not what I thought going into that.
Well, that's I definitely think that the moment with the two Klingon chicks, I definitely think that influenced a lot of us these days with dressing up and going to Comic-Con and going, put this on for me, because damn, that was hot,
yeah. When she's like, he is not very big, but I will have him. And Riker's face was like, oh shit.
Oh man, yeah, that was a little 9-year-old me was like, oh man, I want that Klingon chick, It painted the Klingons in a different light, because up to that point we had seen, the Klingons in, or at least modern Klingons in Star Trek 3, where they were the assholes, and then we had Worf, who was very closed off, very very much what we thought of as, okay, the Klingons are now they're now the good guys, and this is how they would act: very reserved, very proud, very macho, but reserved nonetheless. And then you get to these, and you're like, these guys, like you said, like bikers, and it was very appropriate. I think this episode in itself very much influenced the DS9 Klingon episodes with like Martok and all them. Which
and Riker says that. Riker, I never imagined hearing Klingons laugh, and him telling you there's much about us you don't know, because you get Worf, and he is this. I am an officer. I am kick-ass. I am not here to have fun. I am not here to laugh. I'm here to do my job and do it to the best of my ability. And then you get these laughing, full of belly laugh Klingons, and they even touch on that later. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? We've got you as a Klingon here, but you don't act like other Klingons. And he tells that story about killing that kid, getting angry in a soccer match and accidentally killing that kid, headbutting him. And you start to understand Worf had a completely different life than normal Klingons. That is why he is so just stern. And he says that in one of these episodes. He's like, Ensign, you may impress me. And you're like, damn, he's no nonsense. Whereas all these other Klingons are flying around the galaxy, kicking ass, taking names, and laughing about it and telling good stories about it. When you find out that, there's whole Klingon operas about these Klingons running around killing people in battle and honor, and they laugh and they have fun, and they've got one hell of a sexual experience. I'm not even gonna get into that. When you see that one chick that Q summons for Worf, and she's like crawling towards him and growling at her, and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, no, and it's completely eye-opening. Because so many times you can always hear Worf, Klingons do not laugh, Klingons do not tell jokes, Klingons do not, it's Kalar, I think is her name.
Yes.
She's like, no, Klingons do. It's you that doesn't. And I'm not sure if it's this season she says that, or if
it's the emissary. Yeah, it is. It is the emissary.
But she's very on point when she says that. No, Klingons do. You don't. And that's another episode that's in this season. Emissary. Seeing her gives another perspective on not only Klingon culture but Worf. Worf got such an upgrade this season. Worf and Geordi, with the demise of Tasha Yar, Worf got to a position where I feel like he would have been regulated kind of to second tier, or he wouldn't have at least shined as much as he did had Tasha not left.
Yeah.
I don't think TNG would have succeeded as much had Denise Crosby not left, because it would have been a much different show had she stayed. I think her leaving really made TNG shine, because one, you realized, okay, any one of our people can die at any moment, because it wasn't the end of the season when she left. It was close to it, but it wasn't the end of the season. So they didn't wait till the end of the season to do that and be like, hey, this is our big end drop off. So you kind of felt almost that, hey, any episode, anyone can leave. But they promoted Worf to chief of security, which suited that character. And then you had Geordi go down to engineering and be chief engineer, which I kind of felt was, well, that's left field, because there was nothing in the first season that indicated that he was great at engineering. To me, it just felt like, well, we need somebody, just pick someone out of a hat.
Yeah, and I don't know if you knew this, Vance, but there is an episode in this season called The Schizoid Man, where the actress that played Kalar is playing a Romulan, or not a Romulan, a Vulcan officer on board the Enterprise. She was supposed to originally, they had written in her having a relationship with Worf, and that got trash canned. They threw that idea away, but they liked her so much that they brought her back as Kalar in The Emissary. They liked the actress so much that they brought her back to play Kalar.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know Dr. Solar. Yeah, so that's why So why didn't they do that with her? Because she was, I mean,
I don't know. I don't know. I've never heard a full explanation. All I've heard is they had brought in this actress to play Worf's kind of love interest, and it's a beautiful idea. A Vulcan and a Klingon. Whoever the hell thought that would ever work out? And they trashed the idea. They brought her in. They were going to set it up to where you were eventually going to find out that he was having this relationship with this Vulcan, and they just decided not to do it. But they loved her. They loved having her on and having her guest. So they just, we'll bring her back as this Klingon that's going to be Worf's love interest.
see, and that's such a shitty idea. Like, I mean, hearing what you're talking about makes me depreciate Kalar, you know, more. I mean, I like the character, don't get me wrong, but to me it's like that's such a fascinating, no pun intended, that's such a good idea. I do know that the lady who spills the hot cocoa all over Picard,
Oh
in Q,
man,
Sonia Gomez.
Sonia Gomez.
She was supposed to be a love interest for Geordi. She was in a couple of episodes in season 2. And then they botched that. They nixed that idea. They're like, no, we're not going to do this. And I don't know why, because to me, it's like that's kind of ironic, because Geordi was kind of known as the love struck, you know, never really could get love, you know, guy. But I felt like he had great chemistry with her. I mean, they were seen close together. To me, I felt like that would have been appropriate. And I don't know why. I mean, I'm sure the actress would have come back, but to me, I felt like, well, you set it up in a couple of episodes. I mean, she was there. Why didn't you do it? To me, I felt like TNG was, you know, it had a bunch of elements that, you know, a bunch of coulda, woulda, shoulda. And I kind of would love to go to, you know, maybe another timeline to see, hey, what's TNG like over here? Did we get that story? You know?
Yeah. Was Picard killed off by the Borg? Because that was I'm not going to get into that, but that was a big thing later. But yeah, there were so many. This could happen. This could happen. This could happen, but it never happened. Like we were talking last week about the Ferengi. The Ferengi were supposed to be a big bad guy. That just never happened. And people couldn't take the Ferengi seriously.
Right.
And these little guys with big ears and whip weapons. Mm-hmm. And it, like you said last week, you didn't really get to know the Ferengi until DS9.
Yeah.
And
well,
go 13 AK Brandon them for the $2 super chat. Too bad they didn't listen more to Worf. Exactly. Go ahead, Vance.
Well, and that's part of the problem with TNG, is they never gave an idea a chance to breathe before they nixed the idea. Whereas DS9, nobody really paid that much attention to them. They were the redheaded stepchild, because you had TNG, which is on main networks, and then they had Voyager, which was going to be on UPN, so they were paying more attention to that. So DS9 always fell by the wayside. So DS9, they could kind of do whatever the fuck they want, and nobody paid attention to them. So, I mean, they were told flat out by whatever network was paying attention, you know, what quote unquote paying attention. And Ira Stephen Burr would be like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, we won't do that. And then he'd do it anyway. And nobody ever really paid attention. And that's one of those things where I feel like TNG should have just kind of taken the bull by the horns and just ran with some of those ideas, because I feel like it would have made TNG better, you know. And of course, this is from a series that already ran 7 seasons and was great, and what do I know? But I feel like it would have made it better. Like, jumping ahead a little bit, the Thomas Riker and William Riker idea originally was supposed to be, they were going to kill off Thomas Riker at the end of that episode, or they were going to kill off William Riker at the end of that episode, and then have Thomas Riker join the Enterprise D crew.
Horrible idea.
Well, they were going to have Thomas Riker join the crew of the Enterprise D and then take over as ops, and then promote Data to executive officer, which would have changed the dynamic of the crew, but still keep the same cast, and then go forward. Which, to me, I feel like, you know what? That's ballsy. That's really ballsy.
You would have you would have liked that? I don't know if I could have accepted that.
See, and that's the thing. We don't know, because to me, it's one of those things of like, you would have had a completely different dynamic. Like for at least half a season, you'd have had people going, I don't trust this guy. I don't know this guy. You would have given Riker something more to do than just go on away missions. You would have given Data a new dynamic. You would have given Riker a new dynamic. You would have given, I mean, you just from a publicity, shot perspective, you would have given everybody, Data's in a red uniform, Riker's in a yellow uniform. What is this about? Just from a publicity shot point of view, things are completely changed. Now the dynamic of away missions are completely changed. I mean, just from a storytelling perspective, it opens it up. And as a storyteller myself, and I mean, that's why I change things up on my films and have people change positions and get killed and move to different ships. I mean, so just from a story writing perspective, because those last 2 seasons of Next Gen for me it's hit or miss in season 6, and it's hard to watch season 7. So yeah, I'm very open to that idea of what they could have done, because to me, season 5 is the last good season of Next Gen. Like I said, season 6 is hit or miss. So yeah, I'm very open to that idea. I think after that many seasons, you have to change it up. Otherwise you become stagnant. So yeah, I'm very open to the idea. Because don't forget, around this time, we get Sub Rosa. And it's either give me some Thomas Riker in a different spot, or I see Beverly bang her grandma's boyfriend's ghost. So,
No.
Give me Tommy.
I really did like, though, and they were supposed to bring him back, the DS9 episode where they bring him in. They were supposed to bring him back, and he was supposed to eventually serve on Voyager. He was going to be he was going to be Tom. And they didn't do that. He was going to be the Maquis guy that they brought in to find the Maquis, and they just didn't do that. And I wish they had. I really wish they had. I liked Paris. I liked Tom Paris, but I would have loved to have had Thomas Riker on Voyager, and they didn't do that. I don't know whether Jonathan didn't want to or what the indecision was, but that was the original idea, was to have Thomas Riker on Voyager.
I'd rather them have just left it Nicholas Locarno instead of making it Tom Paris. Like, to me, it's not having it be the loyal, the paying the guy royalties for that character. To me, it's like, come on, guys, stop being so cheap. Just make it the character. Like, whenever shit lines up, it makes it worth it. Bless their hearts. What do we know, man? What do we know? They're CBS. We're YouTube. It's all good. It's all good. But back to season 2 and hottie Klingons. No, it's season 2 of Next Gen. I think, like I said, it started to course correct into some really good and some really bad. I mean, it did give us the child, which, to put it to be correct though about the episode, the child is nothing more than just a Star Trek Phase 2 rewrite. So that's probably why it's so bad, is because it's not really a Next Generation episode. And to be fair, that's why a lot of season 1 was so bad, is because it was very much inspired season TOS knockoff
Phase
stuff.
2, Phase 2 inspiration for a season that has so much in the middle. The start with the child and the end with Shades of Grey, which we were talking about at the beginning before we ever got on here, guys. We were talking about Shades of Grey.
That's where your favorite. That's your top 10. Better than Best of Both Worlds. Yeah, right.
And they could have ended it with peak performance. We talked about that too. That stratagema, with Riker taking command of the Hathaway and having the fight with Picard, and he was going to use the Picard maneuver against Picard, which is something I don't think Picard would. Oh, it does. Riker used my own move against me. It would have been perfect to just end it there, but no. Bring in Shades of Grey.
Wait, how did you get Patrick Stewart on this channel, Loki? It sounded just like him. Oh man.
He's the best. Yeah, when he tells that guy, he's the best. I love that. I love that. We're getting ready for the board. So we're going to pull
Yeah.
these ships out of mothballs and see what we can do with them. And
It
Riker
shows
gives the Enterprise a run for its money.
it shows you how desperate Starfleet is without saying it, without being in your face about it. That's one of the things about storytelling that Star Trek does when it does it right. It tells you without actually speaking it to you. Like when Worf says in Q-Who, hey, these things are scooped up from the surface like in the system whatever.
Well, they had the Romulans, the problem with the Romulans in season 1. Yeah.
It's an offhand reference to where if you're not really paying that much attention, you don't remember and you don't realize. But if you're paying attention, and of course how we tell stories now, we pick up on that right away because we live in the day of Game of Thrones or Walking Dead or where everything's very serialized. But back then, if you weren't paying attention, especially in the fact that they really didn't do reruns, and if you were lucky if you had a VCR that you could record those things. So they very much were telling stories a little bit ahead of their time by making that reference, because you really didn't reference other episodes, let alone something that happened last season like that. So for them to do something so obscure like that very much is telling about what they were trying to do with this overall storyline. So that episode shows, one, the threat that the Borg was going to have and where they were headed, and two, just how big of a threat that this posed and the desperation that Starfleet had. This episode should have been the season finale. And I understand that the Shades of Grey was a bottle episode, which is needed for production of shows. That happens. But that should have been, a filler episode in, maybe 3/4 of the way into the season, not the season finale. And like I said before the show, had we not gotten a third season, that would have been a terrible way to end the show.
Keely Chow says the best part of peak performance is Data making Mr. Komrami rage quit.
Well, that guy always, that actor that plays that alien always kind of plays a douche anyway. So I think, seeing him rage quit anyway, it was just kind of satisfying for anybody that watches that actor, because he's just like the guy in Ghostbusters that shuts down the power grid. We all, we all love it. We all love it when he gets, what's coming to him. He's just got one of those punchable faces that we're like, yeah, he gets it, yeah, So.
Purple Valkyrie brings up the Royale. You either love this episode, I love Royale, or you hate it, a holodeck malfunction episode without the holodeck. Don't take it seriously and you enjoy it better. When that gambler puts that hat on Data, he's like, roll them, boy, roll them bones. Oh man, I love it. I love that guy. It's one of those, like, Picard's reading that book and he's like, oh, I can't get through it. He just can't get through the Royale book. And all the aliens didn't understand humans, and they just made this world out of this text they found. Oh, well, this is what their planet's like. So here, have a little taste of your planet. No, it was a badly written book. You're stuck in a badly written book.
It reminded me, as I was a little kid and I watched this for the first time, like my mom always got these Daniel Steele books, and we would always go to bookstores, and when we would see a Daniel Steele book, we would always buy it for her because she always read these Daniel Steele books, which are these trashy romance novels for those of you that don't know. And I always thought, man, this reminds me of if I was in Star Trek and I got trapped on this planet and I got stuck with like a Daniel Steele book. Like, oh my God, this would be horrifying, to be stuck on this planet in this book that you're like, fuck, this is where I'm at to spend the rest of my days, like me in a Daniel Steele book. Oh, damn it. Yeah, it's a good episode. I love it. Cause like she said, don't think about it too much and you're good. A baby needs a new pair of shoes. It's so cheesy, it's dripping with cheese in it, man. It's so good.
Yes.
It's kind of like Adam West Batman. If you know what you're going into, if you're in for the explosions and battles and you're wanting laser fight, this isn't your episode. But if you go into it knowing, hey, I love Adam West Batman and I want campy goodness, you can stomach it pretty well, and it's a fun episode.
Yeah.
It's fun.
And there are a couple of those. There really are in this season. There are a couple of those that are just, they're fun and you're having fun. And something I've always said, if you're having fun, that's all that matters. And when the crew starts having fun, you can tell they've really hit their stride. That's why I like that episode in season 1. Which one was it? Where Picard, the Big Goodbye. It's not that the Big Goodbye is such a great episode. They're basically in a detective novel, but it's
Dixon
Picard's
Hill.
reaction. It's because I love this. I'm gonna come back dressed for the pot, and then he's getting interrogated. He's like, "Oh, this is good. Oh yes, this is good. I love this. Yes." You don't get Picard like that.
At the end of the day, you really have to look at it. And I mean, you can sit there and analyze, and you can sit there and say, "Oh, this breaks continuity," or "This technically isn't right," or "This technically, this doesn't jive with it." Gawk with extra cheese, right? But like at the end of the day, it really just equates down to this: was I entertained?
Yes.
Did I? I sat there for an hour. And I shut my brain off, and I was able to turn the world off for an hour. Was I entertained? Because I mean, we all have our problems in the world. We all have our stresses, whether it's financial or whether it's medical or whether it's personal, whatever the case may be. If we can sit down in front of the TV and just shut off the world for an hour and just enjoy ourselves, that's all that really matters. And a lot of these episodes, especially in season 2, and a lot of the ones in season 1 for me, I can do that without nitpicking. And that's where I think a lot of modern Trek gets, we get into the nitty gritty of nitpicking, and a lot of the armchair warriors of the internet get into it. And that's where it kind of taints everything is we nitpick. But for me, it's like, just were you entertained? If you were, then they did their job, so.
Yes, absolutely. Before we get out of here, 2 things. One, what was your favorite episode of this season?
Well, everybody likes to go to Q-Who, so I'm not, so I'm not going to go to that one. Because I think that's just like everybody says best of both worlds for season 3, so I won't do that when we do season 3. So I would say for this one, oh man, I need to start thinking of that beforehand, because I feel like I'm I'll tell you what, you say yours real quick, and I'll think of mine real quick.
It would come down to either Elementary Dear Data, A Matter of Honor, or Measure of a Man, and I've got to go with Matter of Honor because I love the Klingons. I am a Klingon. I love the episodes with the Klingons, and you get to find out so much more. And it's a fun episode, like you said. You're laughing, you're wondering what's Riker going to do. The fact that Riker gets Picard to surrender in that episode, he tells him, you're going to lower your shields and surrender your ship, and Picard does it. Picard does it because he knows whatever Riker has done to get in that captain's chair. Of course. Why shouldn't I have known that Riker was going to be the captain of the PA? By the end of his time serving on the PA, Riker's going to be the captain. I should have known. He gets that little grin. Picard gets that little grin when he sees Riker as captain. And he's like, I should have known. My number one, obviously, is going to take over the damn Klingon ship and be the captain of it before his time's up. I love it. I love the interaction with the Klingons. I love his friendship that he makes with the Klingon in that episode, and how that Klingon talks about his father. There's a scene where he talks about his dad. And he's like, my father was captured by the Romulans, and they refused to let him die in battle. And now he's going to die an old man without any honor. And you're like, and Riker's like, but he's your father. And they're like, you don't understand Klingons. You have yet to understand us, because that is a huge sin to a Klingon. You don't get captured. You don't let yourself be captured. You die in battle. You don't die an old man at home. You die in battle as a Klingon warrior should. And there's just so much. There's so much unlocking of Klingons that you just haven't seen before. And I'll always go to that. As great as Elementary Dear Data is, as great as Measure of a Man is, because I really love Measure of a Man, it's a matter of honor.
Right on, man. Right on. I would say for me, I wanted to say peak performance, but the more I thought about it, I was like, no. I would say it boils down to either Contagion, which is the episode with Nagilum. I think that one is probably it's probably up there, and that would have to be like a second close off, just because it has the unknown, and I feel like it's an untapped. We never go back to figure out what that alien was, and it's such a disturbing image of the person in the face inside that void. I think it's called Contagion.
It is, with Nagilum, the alien that swallows the Enterprise. Yes. Yeah,
like that's such a weird. Like I love those type of stories, and I don't feel like we got enough of those inside Next Gen. But to me, that felt very much, when Picard says "Space, the final frontier" every time. Like to me, that's what fucking Space, the final frontier is. But for me, I think my favorite episode is Times Squared, and it's where the Enterprise gets
2 Picards.
Yeah, and the reason why that's my favorite is because it's a mystery. They're trying to figure out why this Picard is where did he come from? How did he get sent back? And then the thing that struck me most visually, and I recreated it so much in my head because I used to build Lego starships as a kid, and I would recreate the image with my Lego starships, is the recording of the Enterprise D from the point of view of the shuttlecraft. This blast hits the Enterprise D, and it just kind of flips the Enterprise D like a pancake, and then it explodes. And to me, visually, that was very striking, because I'm like, you just destroyed the Enterprise. What? Like, I mean, I'd seen the Yamato destroyed, and that bothered me, but it's not the Enterprise. Like, this is the first time the Enterprise is destroyed. Like, what? And if it wasn't for Picard getting sent back, we'd be destroyed. Like, to me, that really, as a kid, that really struck a chord, because I'm like, man, we really lucked out. So to me, it was a great mystery, and it was the first time that I really realized our heroes can die. Just like with Tasha Yar, our heroes could die at any moment. And we're in the scope of the galaxy. Even though we've got this large ship, we're not that important. We're not that big. We're just a fly on the wall. Seeing the Enterprise get tossed about. To me, it had a very big impact on me as a kid. So I'd have to say that's probably my favorite, just because of what it meant to me, and then how it shaped me as a storyteller, filmmaker. So,
well, what do you got? What do you got in the cooker? I know you've got some videos coming out. You've got Constar Chronicles. There's more Constar Chronicles coming, and the end of a Constar Chronicle. What do you got? Because I know some of the people in my chat this morning might not know that Vance does Star Trek fan films, and you've got something coming out, don't you?
Well, we do have on Sundays. We've had the past 2 Sundays. We've had two new releases, and for the next 3 Sundays, we have 2 new releases. On the 17th of July, we're going to be which is a Saturday. We're going to be having a 24-hour marathon on my channel of all 107 of my films.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It was something that I had talked with my partner, Frank, that I was like, look, man, let's grab our coffee. And if you and I got to kind of rotate, how we do this, I might take a couple hour nap, you take a couple hour nap, or well, let's just power chug it with coffee and go. He said, let's just chug it with coffee and go. I'm like, okay, because I'm probably gonna have to take a vacation day and crash the next day, but we're just gonna power through it and do 24 hours, because I think all of my films come out to, I think, maybe 22 hours, so it's not quite a full day of what we're gonna do, but we're just gonna stream all of them in one long podcast on my channel, because I've got a playlist on my channel that has all of them. So we're just going to go through the playlist and just hit play and then just let it go, and then have everybody in the chat just chatting, so people can watch, join in anytime. And then I'm doing Treklanta is doing a virtual tour August 7th, which I am on panel for that for an hour. And then the what used to be called Star Trek Las Vegas, which is now called the 55-year 55-year something. I'm terrible with names, but it used to be called Star Trek Las Vegas. I'll be going up there August 12th, I believe it's that Thursday, because it's open for 5 days. But I'll be on panel up there discussing my involvement in fan films. So I'll be on panel for that day, that Thursday. So it's nice to be like, wow, considering I started 8 years ago with just a guy on a cell phone, to now be like, hey, I'm going to Star Trek Las Vegas to go talk. It just kind of shows that, don't ever let anyone tell you that what you do, isn't going to work. Because I've had so many people tell me, you can't shoot on a cell phone. That's stupid. Well, here I am, and they're having me come out. Who the fuck am I? I'm just a guy with a cell phone. So, go do it. Go be different. So.
And yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, that's one thing I've talked about on the show. If you want to do something, you will find a way. I know YouTubers that started out on their phone. We've got a guy who does Star Trek fan films that started filming them on a cell phone. And he is one of the greats, ladies and gentlemen. Vance Major Owen, thank you so much for being here today. Dega Outlaw 107, folks. Vance is a true fan.
Thank you, Dega.
Go 13, aka Brandon the Infinite Wolf. Vance is the Star Trek man.
Oh, thank you. Bless your heart, guys.
Thank you so much for being here. Guys, we will be back later tonight on this channel for the roundtable, for the comic book roundtable. I can't wait. We're going to talk about the long Halloween. We're going to have some great guests. We're going to have Esh from Pop Culture. God, I can't remember the name. Yes, we're going to have Esh from God, I keep wanting to say Pop Culture Academia. It's not Pop Culture. Anyway, we're going to have Ash on. We're going to have Purple Valkyrie on from Rise and Shine. We're going to have a great show tonight. Thank you guys so much for being here. It's going to be at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, R1. So we will be back tonight. Everyone, I hope you have a great day. Be excellent to each other. And thank you so much for hanging out with me and Vance as we go through our Star Trek The Next Generation retrospective. Everyone have a great day, and we will catch you guys next week.
These videos are tremendous. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hammer that notification bell.